Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the KE strand of our automation showcase. It's lovely to see you all here today, although we're recording this on Monday morning, so we're going to take it on trust that you are actually all here today. My name is Tom Trella. I am the Knowledge Exchange Manager for Southwest Creative Technology Network. I work for the University of West of England, and I lead the KE theme for the project. I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Tom Eady at University of Plymouth.
Hello, yeah, I'm Tom Eady from the University of Plymouth and the Knowledge Exchange Manager for the Southwest Creative Technology Network and based at the University of Plymouth. And I'll pass you over to my colleague, Rachel.
Hi, I'm Rachel Pownell and I am the Knowledge Exchange Manager for Southwest Creative Technology Network based at Bath Spa University. And I'll pass you over to Lloyd Brenner, my colleague there.
Hello, I'm the Knowledge Exchange Manager at Falmouth University. There's actually two of us working part-time, and I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Adam Stringer.
Thanks, Lloyd. I'm Adam Stringer, again, Knowledge Exchange Manager at Falmouth University. I'll be talking to you later. I'm going to pass back to Tom, who's going to get this started.
Great, thanks very much, Adam. So I'm going to begin by sharing some slides. So a little bit about today. We're going to begin by talking about some general principles of knowledge exchange. We're then going to talk a bit about the specific knowledge exchange of ethos and principles we've used in the Southwest Creative Technology Network. We'll then spend a little bit of time each talking about the real local impacts of this KE approach to each of our universities and the surrounding environments. And then I believe we have a little bit of time left for Q&A at the end. So I think if we're all ready, I will begin with some general introductions. I'm just going to begin my stopwatch. So Southwest Creative Technology Network, it's a business development and knowledge exchange program. This is how I describe the shared undertaking we've all been part of for the last 2 and a bit years. I always find it really interesting to watch how this sentence lands with new collaborators. So when you talk to people about business development and knowledge exchange, business development produces sort of nods, smiles. Yeah, people get that and they really understand it. When you say KE, it generally doesn't trigger that, especially not outside the academic context. So in this first little bit of the day, I'm going to talk a bit about, spend a little bit of time to unpack the sort of core principles of knowledge exchange, or KE, as you might have already heard us refer to it. I'm going to talk a bit about the approach we've taken to SWCTN, and I'm going to highlight some of the examples about KE in action within the wider network. So what is knowledge exchange? A good starting point, I think, is the KE Concordat, which is a large document produced by UKRI and various universities who've really taken the lead around knowledge exchange over the last 10 years. So this document describes KE as a collaborative, creative endeavor that translates knowledge and research into impact in society and in the economy. So put simply, this is an enabling, empowering, and collaborative activity that helps the world benefit from research and expert knowledge. So that's a good starting point, but I think there's still a few things that could do with a little bit of unpacking here. And mainly this is the concept of impact. So impact is, again, it's another very technical academic term. UKRI, who's the government body who oversees and funds both research and innovation, defines impact as an effect on, a change, or a benefit to the economy, to society, to culture, to public policy or services, to health, to the environment, or to the quality of life beyond academia. So this is a very long-winded definition of impact. It's a very comprehensive one, but probably, again, if I'm talking to people more generally, I would say that impact is measurable change linked to relevant research. So impact flows from the outputs of research. Outputs come from research and impact comes from outputs. So again, you'll see that this is all very academic focused, and that's partly because the terms around knowledge exchange and impact come from the world of research and research funding. So knowledge exchange is rooted in that world, but the principles that underpin it, and I guess particularly the principles that we feel underpins our take on knowledge exchange, are really relevant to any form of collaboration, inside or outside academia. So again, let's just take a step back. We covered the very basic knowledge exchange. You might have heard it also called tech transfer or knowledge transfer. And especially in the documentation that sits around this kind of stuff, you might see that these terms are used interchangeably with knowledge exchange. But we here within the Southwest Creative Technology Network would really clearly distinguish them. Exchange is the operator here. Exchange is important. To us, transfer carries connotations of a single flow of information. Something goes from academia, from the outputs of academia, pushed out into the world beyond. But that's not the program that we run. We link academics with those outside of academia to improve all parties' ways of working. What would be the point in working together otherwise? Good quality KE should build collaborations founded on exchange, a transfer from both parties to the other, which benefit all these collaborators. So we would really clearly situate ourselves as a knowledge exchange program rather than knowledge transfer program. So yes, exchange is better than transfer. So that is the sort of top line, very quick introduction to knowledge exchange. As I've said, across the KE Concordat, across lots of great publications from UKRI, from Research England, who are our funder, there's lots of really helpful stuff to unpack knowledge exchange. All our universities have their own individual knowledge exchange strategies and research strategies that link to them. There's a lot of stuff to read out there. It is all very academically focused. I have tried to whiz through that in a way that is relevant to words beyond academia. So let's talk a bit about us. Let's move away from the wider world and move down into what we think about the Southwest Creative Technology Network. So before we move on, I guess I'm going to revisit that KE Concordat again. And I think there's a really key sentence in there which really helpfully resonates with what we've tried to do. And that sentence is, there is no single profile of knowledge exchange that is appropriate to all universities. What is best for a given university is very context-driven through the discipline portfolio it has and the environment in which it is located. One size will not fit all. And again, that is a great final sentence. One size will not fit all is something we'll come back to time and time again throughout this presentation, and I guess throughout today and throughout anything we've learned through this network. So another way you could talk about this is the principle of being responsive to your surroundings. This is of ethos rather than a prescribed step-by-step set of actions. And this is really at the heart of our approach to KE. Context and understanding of what is right for all parties of the collaboration. So you could think about the strategic aims of the university, the age and stage of the business you're trying to collaborate with, the values that underpin your university, the values that underpin the business. What do they care about? What does your university care about? What's your university and this business's previous experience of working together? Was that a good collaboration? If not, do you have some understanding of why it didn't work? What could you do differently to make sure that doesn't happen again? What are the two parties' preconceptions of each other? Universities sometimes do not have the best reputation for being agile and generous collaborators. That's not our experience throughout the network, but it's certainly a stereotype that covers some of our universities. So what can you do to overcome that? How can you correct those stereotypes? What does your business think about collaborating? What does your university think about collaborating with the businesses? What's their preconceptions? All these kinds of things and all this kind of thinking needs to be taken into account to really make collaborations work. This is all the more important, we would say, when working with a community for whom knowledge exchange isn't part of their normal working practice. And we've worked with a lot of businesses who are brand new. So not only are they brand new to being a business, but they're brand new to knowledge exchange, and they're brand new to partnering with something other than themselves. So our KE approach has been informed by all the partners who lead SWCTN. You've got representatives from all the university partners here today, but there's also two other equal partners on SWCTN. That's the Watershed and PM Studios in Bristol and Collider in Exeter. And all these parties have come together to inform this KE practice. So the need for local context has been really clear throughout all our work together. I think it's fair to say it's become an adage for our work together that what works in Bristol doesn't necessarily work for Bath or Falmouth. We're rooted in the work that our KE predecessors, such as React, which is an AHRC funded KE hub, which involved SWCTN partners UE and Watershed. But we've tried to make sure that that approach has evolved and that we've allowed all the different branches that grow from this route to spread as the local ecosystem requires. Our universities are different. Our businesses and creative communities that surround our universities are different. So our delivery and approach to KE should be different, even if it comes from a shared ethos. Our KE approach is designed to work complementary to our production and business development approaches, which I think you'll be hearing from today, to really uplift the talent and skills around creative technologies throughout the Southwest. So what's different about our network, and how do we sit different to the other Connecting Capability Fund projects which Research England have funded? Well, I guess primarily the network is not arranged disciplinary as many of the other Connecting Capability Fund projects are. So this takes a core of research disciplines and builds a key approach around them, you know, a very fixed central point academic subjects, probably anchored in a single school. But we haven't done that. We're arranged thematically around the big theme topics of immersion, automation, and data. So on top of that broader thematic approach, we found that much of the best practice around KE, beyond what React has developed, tended to align more with the approaches found from the engineering schools or the drug discovery fields with really mature links between the knowledge base inside and outside the university. So as we previously discussed, these links are often not mature in the sectors we're working with. And as I'm sure you'll hear from our business development strand, this has meant we've had to work really hard to find points of commonality and best practice we can share with each other. So we've also sought to challenge some of the assumptions regarding the role of universities that flow from these existing KE traditions. Often we found that these traditions privilege very particular forms of knowledge, very particular kinds of research methods, and very particular kinds of research participants. We would say that research and development is not only the domain of universities. Building collaborations between universities and the outside world is for the benefit of both parties. And as we've said, both parties have something to benefit and something to learn from this collaboration. The best collaborations sharpen all parties within them. And we'll talk about some specific examples in the change in practice within us, within our universities, and within those collaborating with the universities later in this presentation. So given the aims of the network and the ecosystem of university and non-university R&D we're looking to work with, we started with a co-designed set of KE principles built by the whole SWCTN team. So that's both the knowledge exchange team you see here before you and beyond, our co-Is, our producers, our business development things, really the whole team. And we did this while we still have the lovely luxury, although we didn't recognize such at the time, of spending a day together in person. So this produced what we call our creative KE principles. And I'm going to flash these up on a slide now. I realize this is quite a dense slide. We will send a link round to these, but I am going to take some time just to read through these for the benefit of everyone in the audience. So our principles we ended up with are as follows. If knowledge is power, then knowledge exchange is sharing power. Knowledge exchange is about expanding opportunities for people to participate in creating and telling stories around that creating. Knowledge exchange generates new value through the exchange of different values. Knowledge exchange should challenge inequitable or exclusionary innovation. Knowledge exchange is relational and reciprocal, not transactional. It is about filling potential. It is about growing and expanding trust. Knowledge exchange allows people to see themselves differently. And it's about people before it is about products. New and diverse voices and approaches are vital to innovation, as is the work in helping translate between different expertise groups. And this is a common thread that we have in our program, and we see much more widely. The recently published government R&D strategy really makes this case. Diversity is absolutely critical to innovation. So within our approach, we also look to center the power dynamic in our KE work. It's not honest to pretend that various collaborating parties are of equal power when entering into collaborations. A university has more resources than a micro studio, in the same way that a multinational media company has more resources than a university. Experience, clarity of what a partner wants from a collaboration, knowledge of where value could lie in a collaboration, access to legal support to draft or even to revise collaboration agreements, an ability to offset medium or short-term losses for long-term gain, access to space and equipment. All of these factors and more are not equal between the partners when brokering university, non-university collaboration. It is our job as KE professionals, following the creative KE principles, to draw out these differences and ensure they are reflected in the collaborations we've broken. We're employed by our respective universities to deliver their strategic priorities, and we work with SWCTN to deliver against its KE aims. When we build collaborations between our university and those outside our university, we need to ensure that we work for both potential sides of the collaboration and help them see the benefit of working together. This may involve respectfully challenging our partners or our employees to think carefully about the value they bring to the collaboration and the values they could derive from a collaboration. As with all partnership work, this comes down to openness and trust, and it is our job to nurture trust and understanding between those collaborators. So we've also worked with our universities to understand where that value in the collaboration could lie and how it can be a multifaceted thing. I guess value is a very carefully chosen word and is not as simple as money. What people value can be beyond that. It might just be money, and that's a very easy thing to quantify and write an agreement around. But particularly with the universities, this could be somewhere else. You could think of a partnership as the start of a long-term relationship that could host knowledge transfer partnerships down the line. It could be a source of industry-facing student projects. This work could be a particular strategic value to the university. Maybe it will make a really great knowledge exchange framework return. These are all things that might drive value to university beyond the monetary factors that enter into collaboration. And you might try to put a quantity on this value and try and reach an agreement with the collaborators that offsets this value against other things. All agreements are a bit about give and take, but you can only give and take if you understand what you need out of a collaboration and where the value lies in it. So as I've said earlier, we need to start from place where value-driven KE approach allows us to construct some adaptable best practice that can reflect the local conditions we all find ourselves within. Many assumptions around knowledge exchange are still based around producing exploitable and patentable IP. And although we have funded some projects which have produced patents, the vast majority of IP produced sits much more in the trademark or copyrightable space. And as such, the value of this IP needs some careful thought, and the ability to exploit this IP and derive value for this for collaborations we broker need a different approach. So this also has meant that sort of standard university processes and documentations built around exploiting and licensing patentable IP needs to be revisited to make sure that we can reflect this difference in value. So we've really treated this as a redesign point to echo the open, collaborative and creative approaches modelled elsewhere in the Southwest Creative Technology Network into the day-to-day administration of the project within our institutions. We've all worked hard with our contract and finance teams to revisit what are these collaboration processes for? How do they map onto a collaboration that produces quantifiable value for the university and for the collaborators along different routes? How do we engage local teams to build creative new processes which meet the needs of the university and their collaborators? So again, we're going back to building collaborations that work well for everyone. Creativity doesn't need to be just situated within the projects we fund. And in fact, it doesn't even need to be just situated within the knowledge exchange processes and principles we adopt. Creativity and responsiveness can sit in our contracting, our finance, our administration, and these all play a part in delivering on this creative KE principles to facilitate a creative technology network. So that, as I see it, is a really top level, very fast discussion of our KE principles. I'll just stick up our final slide. So those are a sort of, I don't know, a boiled back version of what I think we've covered here. New and diverse voices are fundamental to innovation. Power dynamics need attention. It's really about localness, local expertise and understanding what's around you. Good collaborations need trust and understanding. Value is not a synonym for money or turnover. And creative technology needs creative knowledge exchange, but also needs creative contracting, creative administration, creative financing, all these things to make this work. Creativity and the ability to understand why you do something and how you might need to do things differently to achieve a common aim is key. So you've heard a bit about our approach, and I think it's now time to look at the local partners in a bit more detail. So I'm now going to hand over to each of my colleagues in turn to talk a little bit about how this creative KE approach has been unpacked in their local context. So I think, Rachel, you're first, aren't you? Let me see if I can hand over to you.
Great, thank you. So Tom, that's brilliant. Thank you for the slides up. So yes, so For Bath Spa University, the Southwest Creative Technology Network has really helped to boost our knowledge exchange culture. It's helped us to connect with local businesses and local innovation. Along with our sister project, the Bristol and Bath Creative R&D Cluster Programme, the university's involvement with Southwest Creative Technology Network has created a critical mass of KE activity, and this has helped us to establish Bath Spa University's very first enterprise and innovation hub, the studio at Palace Yard Mews. The studio opened in October 2019, so about a year ago, and provides space for local micro-businesses, startups, Bath Spa University graduates, students, academics to work on projects and ideas that focus on creativity and technology. It's somewhere to share learning through regular workshops, events and activities, which COVID permitting are open to the community. So it is KE in action, and actually on the slide you can see one of the workshops that we had a little bit earlier on in the year before lockdown. The studio's now got 23 residents who enjoy access to a supportive network of innovators and thinkers. They get free co-working desks, a programme of business support, and they can book meeting rooms and breakout spaces. Obviously, COVID restrictions have meant that some of this has had to go online, but currently we are open and we have they have socially distanced access to the building for now anyway. Can I have the next slide, please? So many of the studio residents have been directly linked with Southwest Creative Technology Network. For example, New Talent Automation Fellows Ruby Soho and Joseph Wilk have based their startup Little Lost Robot CIC at the studio, and on the slide you can see a photograph of them working on one of their projects with another colleague. They found having a city centre space where they can collaborate has been critical actually in developing this prototype, which is called Playable Places for Urban Spaces. They actually met through SWCTN, and Ruby's used her knowledge of soft robotics that she gained through her fellowship to design and build a prototype. They're also collaborating on another prototype called Stupid Cities. This one's led by Joseph and is funded by Bristol and Bath Creative R&D, but it's actually based on research that he undertook during his SWCTN fellowship. Could I have the next slide, please? Yes, so Dave Webb, Emma Pauncefort, Alex Whitty and Annie Lywood, they all became residents of the studio as a result of an automation, SWCTN automation microgrant, which was actually also augmented by match funding from the university. So Annie's to grow her therapeutic tech startup called Bonnie Binary, and she commissioned some R&D into printed inks to develop textile sensor technology for the products that she creates as part of her business. Dave used his grant to develop workshops to demystify AI. You can see his AI for nervous humans picture on there on the slide. And Emma's project uses technology to improve critical thinking skills. That's the Dialectica slide logo on the slide. Alex is still a product design undergraduate, and he's using his residency and grant to link with local businesses to develop his prototype for an electricity generating trainer insole that can charge your smartphone, and you can see a photograph of that on the slide as well. Another example of KE is that of studio resident Sylvia Gronow. She's a part-time lecturer at Bath Spa University, and she was nominated to take part in the SWCTN Talent Development Scheme. It's actually run by Collider, one of the partners. And through this, she and another participant developed a dance sonifier, which is advanced sensor technology to enable dancers to interact remotely without being screen dependent. So she's testing this at the studio, and she's hoping to market it, her and her partner are hoping to market it to dance practitioners. And it's a way of helping combat some of the issues involved in continuing with collaborative dance practice during the pandemic. So you don't have to be so reliant on a screen, which can be a little bit distracting. Could I have the next slide, please? So Bath Spa University Strategy 2030, and you can see a picture of the Commons building, which is part of our Newton Park campus on the slide there. So the strategy sees creativity and enterprise as two of the university's key drivers, whilst also creating an inclusive culture with a holistic approach to work and well-being. So knowledge exchange has got a crucial role to play in this, and we've got lots of beyond SWCTN new projects that are coming on board too. And the knowledge exchange is creating links between the university and the wider community in Bath and beyond. And I feel that SWCTN has had a great impact on this so far, and the projects and connections that have been developed will continue to grow and bear fruit for many years to come. Thank you. And I'll hand over to I'm not quite sure who's going next. Is that you? I think I'll hand back over to Tom. I think.
Sure, that's great. Thank you very much, Rachel. That's a great presentation. So next up is my colleague, Tom. So Tom, I guess you've got your own slides. So I'm going to stop sharing here and allow you to take over.
So the City of Plymouth is undergoing rapid evolution across its creative sector, which is akin to a cultural renaissance. A driving force of this evolution is the Bridge, the University of Plymouth's new KE team, born out of the success of Research England, Arts Council, DCMS, and ESIF funded projects with knowledge exchange at their heart. SWCTN has provided an essential platform for building collaborations with a new network of partners, thinking, practice, and talent across the city and Southwest. SWCTN's methodology and partnership working has enabled new meaningful relationships locally, such as collaborations with the Real Ideas organisation on the £7 million Market Hall immersive full dome venue, Plymouth College of Arts, Plymouth City Council, the Box, Plymouth's new museum and art gallery and cultural centre, and Mayflower, which seeks to build Plymouth's creative industries. This open approach supports our work in the growth of emerging local businesses in well-being, such as Renaissance, a movement and strength programme, run by SWCTN industry fellow Ben Dunks, who continues to progress his business through the support of the Bridge team. SWCTN microgrant developments have unlocked an entanglement with Environmental Futures and Big Data Impact Lab and the CIC Polonaise on behaviour and using bees to learn about climate change. This enterprise is scaling and building confidence off the back of that SWCTN activity. This more agile KE approach has enabled an ongoing engagement with SWCTN talent, using the university's new digital fabrication and immersive media labs to explore their ideas. For example, we cleared the ceramics lab for a fortnight for our academic fellow Alejandro Velez-Reis and industry fellow Tom Duggan to set up a robot arm and work together on 3D clay printing. The SWCTN network has extended our reach to Bristol and Bath and down to Falmouth, exploring new networks, contacts, collaborations and projects, such as IDAT, our open research lab for playful experimentation in creative tech, commissioned 3D scan and create an interactive 3D installation of a Nam Gobbo sculpture for St Ives. This SWCTN KE project approach complements Cultivator, a regional initiative tailored support to creative businesses across Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. This networking extends to an international scale, linking to global networks to engage in critical conversations and to develop new collaborations and relationships, such as those through the Arts Council funded delegation of the Southwest creatives, curators and commissioners, including several SWCTN immersive fellows and a creative producer, to attend an IX symposium in Montreal, a project that developed a proactive approach to address the diversity and balance in the digital sector. These new relationships are directly supporting Rio's new market hall development. SWCTN has given us the opportunity to provide businesses, development support work with fellows and prototype teams through our Roots to Investment Fund that delivers free legal and accountancy advice. This really became especially significant in the early stages of lockdown and the changes brought by COVID-19. Through all this activity, we see a richer and more productive dialogue emerging between our university and external organisations locally, regionally, nationally and internationally. SWCTN is the catalyst to realise our vision to lead the growth, productivity and resilience of the creative economy in the Southwest and foster developments in creative technologies and interdisciplinary challenge-led innovation. That's from us. Back to you, Tom.
Great, thank you so much, Tom. Beautiful slides. So next up, I believe, is Adam. So Adam, I see we've been left by Lloyd, but I'm sure you'll be able to handle this alone. I'm going to hand over to you now. So Adam, in your own good time.
By far the biggest impact the programme has brought to Falmouth University is the engagement and cross-fertilisations of ideas, people and expertise from each of the partner organisations. For our members, this has brought opportunity, greater connectivity and reduced the impact of Cornwall's geographical remoteness being a distance partner. A huge element of being part of this network has been the learning about one another. The fellowship programme with each theme has acted as a catalyst for this, with open prototype calls gaining further momentum, bringing new entities to come and work with the university on their applications. The geographical spread of events and the workshops has built the network across the Southwest, bringing in people with differing backgrounds and knowledge. All said, the programme has allowed for regional approaches, so the voices of Cornish organisations, individual ideas and identities have been retained and respected. Engagement with the SWCTN programme has opened up and helped start a significant number of new collaborations between its members and also with our members and Cornwall-based organisations. By the nature of sharing, we've created a community that reaches beyond Cornwall itself. It's definitely true that doors have been opened for people and projects have evolved from network, have progressed to a high level because of this. The themes within the SWCTN programme have aligned with Falmouth's centric position in driving forward the creative industries in Cornwall and the Southwest. The programme has also meshed well with Falmouth's own Doing It for Real ethos. We've been particularly excited to see the Southwest Creative Technology Network has encouraged and led for academics at Falmouth to apply not only for fellowships, but also apply for prototyping awards. Aspiration is that Falmouth is going to integrate its research and innovation, and we've seen several examples of this within SWCTN. Paul Cheney's new prototype being showcased today is a great example of this. We're working hard to ensure that staff and students alike understand the university wants to encourage, support and nurture successful projects. Paul's success shows this is possible. SWCTN has helped promoting a liberal and empowering approach to IP ownership at Falmouth also. At Falmouth and in Cornwall, the SWCTN network has come to be seen as a network of opportunity. 2.5 years into the programme, the network continues to provide opportunities to individuals and entities that often fall outside the traditional support on offer to SMEs and businesses in Cornwall. Another major impact and hence change for Falmouth has been the interaction between SWCTN and the Launchpad programme. The SWCTN programme has generated a lot of interest from our in-house teams. Most specifically, the prototyping funds have attracted a large number of applications and driven SWCTN membership across Cornwall. It's been important at Falmouth that we've had funding opportunities available to support our businesses once incorporated. Data Duopoly have already presented today, and you'll hear more from them about their award-winning business in more detail later this afternoon. It's not all been about the big pots of funding on offer either. During the SWCTN programme, we've also launched a number of smaller awards. In year one, this led to Falmouth launching a number of residencies with Carskin, Helston and Porthmere Studios and St Ives. Although these entities had worked with the university before, we were introduced to people through these projects who were outside of the university sphere, and we've carried on working with them. In August, we launched a Cornwall Challenge Fund looking for ideas that would promote social distance ways of staying safe and togetherness. We funded 4 of these new projects, and we're looking to find out about their results of their endeavours shortly. At Falmouth, we have a strong background in bringing new products, software and services to market where the focus is typically commercial relating to investment. We've looked at new lenses at Falmouth really gained from the kind of assessment criteria that we've developed as a network. So we were looking at things such as can social empowerment in decision making, or maybe looking at the ethics, add a layer to applications, and that's something that we haven't done particularly at Falmouth before. I think the biggest impact has been opening up perspectives. These lenses that we've looked at are very much related to the criteria, but they look at things such as the audience lens, commercialization, the social impact, something again we might not have necessarily looked at too closely in the past. Team lenses, is it going to be the right people delivering the project? Do they need to bring extra skills in? Again, about the themes, and Tom talked about value earlier on, it's not necessarily monetary value. The inclusivity lens and the ethics lens we've always looked at Falmouth as well, but again, these are becoming much more important in every application that's put forward. Again, we've looked at the technology that the different companies that we're working with are putting into their applications. Is it absolutely new what they are doing? And then obviously there's the geographical lens as well. How will this impact particularly Cornwall, but also the Southwest and the other partners as well? I'd like to hand back to Tom.
KE within UE. So I had a lot of thoughts about KE within UE, and I did start with a big long list of projects that that come out of UE, but I actually thought maybe what I would focus a little more on is around a couple of ones that are really meaningful to me. We've recently put out our interim report, so if you do want that long list of projects we funded throughout all the partners, I'd really highly recommend having a look on our website, having a look at our interim report. The website is amazing and has an amazing wealth of material and research that all the project partners have put together, and all the fellows and prototype teams. It's great, and the interim report similarly. But I'm just going to focus on a couple of really big ones and meaningful ones for me. So the change that I see most frequently, I guess, is the lab in which I work every single day. The Creative Economy Lab is a new research lab which consolidates the work that UWI's done with the REACT programme, the work it's delivering through the Southwest Creative Technology Network, and also the work on the sister project, which Rachel talked about earlier, Bristol and Bath Creative R&D. So this emerged from the long-standing work between UWI's Digital Culture Research Centre and the members of the Watershed Research and Creative Production team, who've been funded on ERDF, UKRI, and Arts Council England programmes. But it was this working together on this network that formalised the research lab, that added 9 new members of staff to the Creative Economy Lab, including myself and a new professor. It put in place a vision for the lab, a strategy that sits within the lab that ties into the wider UWI strategy, and I guess a delivery plan for not just knowledge exchange, but for research underpinning that knowledge exchange, both in Southwest Creative Technology, Network, but also informed, but also I guess to extend beyond that, but informed by the methods and the values that we've trialed through the network. We in the lab have also been successful in securing several funding bids, which are based on this Creative Economy Lab's vision and methodology, which is informed by the Southwest Creative Technology Lab and its predecessors. And also the work that the network does and the lab carries out sits within UWI's research pillars around digital futures and around creative and digital technologies. UWI's been pretty flexible and able to adapt its processes to deliver this complex multi-partner project and the other ones that we've been trying to deliver. I talked earlier about the need for creative knowledge exchange underpinned by creative financing and creative administration, and we've really found that in UWI. And also, you know, the focus on people and on place, which is a key part of the UWI 2030 strategy, is also a key part of our work. So yeah, it's been a really great strategic resonance, for want of a more horrific term, between ourselves and UWI, and we're really delighted with the change we've seen within the university to support SWCTN and projects of this nature. So that's the sort of the internally bit. I guess I wanted to talk a bit about the other really big piece of meaningful KE change that I've seen during my time. As I said, I've seen a lot of amazing ideas and projects throughout the network. We've had a lot of feedback, mostly positive, but certainly even the ones that isn't positive, all really thoughtful and all an inspiration to keep improving. But I think the feedback that sticks most in my mind and will really lead to some exciting changes on a UWI level is the one that followed our automation fellows spending a day at the Bristol Robotics Lab. So a number of our fellows who are funded through the automation theme, many of whom we're hearing today, undertook the Bristol Robotics Lab Introduction to Robotics Taster. And I'll let the feedback from one of our fellows tell the story. So this is a quote from their feedback. They answered all my ridiculous questions, were okay with us deviating from their program and trying to persuade the robots to dance. I think we are probably quite chaotic to them, but they dealt with it with great aplomb. So this was really nice, and it was especially nice when we got pretty much identical feedback from the BRL staff about how working with the fellows had challenged them in all the best ways, had totally infused them, had really excited them about new ways of thinking about robotics. So with both sides really excited about, I guess, seeing how the other half work and how the possibilities of working together. I spent some time with Bristol Robotics Lab colleagues to try and build a one-day event around creative robotics practice, examining how different interests, different activities and different methods, either professional or personal, of Bristol Robotics Lab colleagues and SWCTN automation members could complement and constructively challenge each other using the sort of KE and facilitation methods we trialed elsewhere in the network. And we also began to scope out an artist in residence for Bristol Robotics Lab. So these are really, to me, exciting, I guess, shifts on both sides, both moving their practice to this like really interesting middle space. So unfortunately, as with loads of other things you hear about today, COVID put these projects on hold, but we're really excited to do some more work together as soon as we can. It was this drawing of understanding between our fellows and the Bristol Robotics team, the sort of flicker of excitement around the possibilities created by glimpsing other ways of thinking about robots, other ways of considering the insights gained from both parties in seeing, I guess, the differences from how they work, but also the similarities in the way that they conceive, they build, and they research robotics. It was a really exciting, real highlight to me. I think all too often creativity is sometimes seen as the sole purview of the arts or the creative industries, but this recognition of creativity as an animating and driving force also doesn't really go beyond the wall of creative industries. And I felt like in this moment of between BRL and the Automation Fellows, we found a real moment in the middle, a real sort of burgeoning relationship that that sat outside of discipline or method, something that felt like a sort of sliver of how robots could be in the future, and something I really hope we can all hold on to and grow and reignite once we're able to be in the same place at the same time. So that's it from us, from talking at you. I think we're going to now move on to some Q&A. So let's do that. How has your approach to KE changed as a result of you working in SWCTN? This is your personal KE approach.
My personal KE approach has been, I think having not been involved in higher education prior to joining the network, what I found most interesting is I suppose understanding the idea of collaboration and how collaboration works based on what we are wanting and what others are wanting, and trying to identify the common ground, that sort of the desired approach for success, but also needing to kind of gain some sort of knowledge from or experience or perhaps using sort of facilities and so forth. And when we from both partners, and when we had Alejandro mentioned earlier, Alejandro and Tom come together on site to explore this idea of clay printing using a robot arm, you know, in 3D clay printing, it was fantastic example where it also seemed to come together, and both were genuinely excited by that.
Great, thanks, Tom. Lloyd, welcome back. Lovely for you to be able to jump back in again. And maybe we're just running through the Q&A. Maybe I can call on you because you've just dropped in. How would you say your personal approach to knowledge exchange has changed over the course of working on SWCTN?
Well, that's a really good question, Tom. Yeah, I think I probably came into the project very much with a sort of a lawyer's investor mindset, quite commercial, quite hard line. And the biggest learning area for me, and I obviously knew that you know, social purpose and ethical approaches were important, but the biggest learning area for me is realizing that taking an inclusive, diverse approach to knowledge exchange actually helps drive creativity and innovation. I've seen so many parallels between working innovatively and following the inclusion and diversity agendas, you know, following best practice in those areas, that for me, it sort of becomes less of an agenda that you need to follow and more of a best practice way of working. And that's been a massive journey for me, because I've gone from, you know, I suppose you could call it a softening, but actually I'd say it's more of a journey towards better practice, actually.
That's great to hear. I mean, I mean, that's certainly part of what I've learned too. I guess that sense that if you want innovation, if you want new stuff out, having the same old people sat around the same tables, having the same discussions, you're just never going to get that innovative leap. And it's not just an ethical imperative to be more inclusive, to work around diversion. This is how you get new stuff. You need to bring new people to the table. You need to help them understand what you're asking and bring together and work out new ways that we can all work together. Adam, how would you say, I'm going to talk to you as the other half of the Falmouth team, how would you say your personal KE practice has changed?
Something very similar to Lloyd, because my background again is commercialization of product, and so yeah, I would have come from a hardline kind of position as well in terms of looking at the monetary value of things. You know, how can we make money out of an idea? That to me was innovation. But obviously I knew there's more to it than that, and obviously at the university we make our teams look at a lot more than just the kind of monetary side of things and the value it adds. But this network has been completely about that, and so it's introduced me to so many different ways of looking at things and different perspectives. It's the perspectives things that's just the thing that I've gained the most insight from, I feel. So yeah, no, very similar kind of learning curve in that respect.
Fab, thanks, Adam. Rachel, how about you? What do you think's changed within you and your KE practice?
Well, I mean, I would say, I think like some of the other knowledge exchange managers, I was new to KE when I started on the project, having sort of creative industry and lecturing background. So I kind of had the two sides already, but not in a KE context. And I think initially it was all about going out and making lots of connections within the industry, within and Bath rather. And then I think it's turned more into a kind of a nurturing role. So having made those connections, it's kind of growing them and connecting them with people within the university and with each other. And also I think then reaching out even further and becoming more inclusive and reaching out to more diverse audiences so that we can bring a wider variety of voices into the kind of exchange. As we were talking about, it's not knowledge transfer, it's knowledge exchange. So it's about the university learning from the people that we connect with, as well as the people that we connect with having knowledge and learning from the university. So I think it's kind of gone on to the next stage, and now we've got this space at Palace Yard Mews, we've got a place to be able to do that, which has been really, really helpful as well. So I think it's a kind of combination of things, really.
I think that's probably all our time for Q&A at the moment. So as I've already said, if anyone in the audience has any other questions they'd like to ask, we're here live actually around today. I think we're all presenting prototypes at the moment, so jump across to there if you want to see us, how we look on Friday, how much we base in a week. Otherwise, if you need to talk to us about KE or anything about our universities, you can drop us an email, or I think Hopin has various networking functions that some of the wonderful people from Collider will talk you through. Otherwise, have a wonderful day and speak soon.